Hello everyone, and welcome back to The Pulse. I'm your host, Connor Sundet, and on behalf of myself and the team here at Spokane Talks, we are very happy to have you with us. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be right back after this.
Well, this is Bloomsday in Spokane. We got about 40 firefighters and their friends and family handing out 40,000 cups of water as the day goes by.
It's a very good opportunity to see the public and support them and help them out and cheer them on during Bloomsday.
It's one of the best things about Spokane is that we have these major events and the whole community comes together not just to participate but to volunteer and show that they really care about our city and making our city look great.
This type of an event really is emblematic of Spokane because so many people get involved. We have 50,000 people probably running this race. Always has been a very huge event.
Right now we're at the corner of Broadway and Nettleton. It's the last water station before the finish, so people are pretty much dehydrated by the time they get to us. They really need our water.
The water stations are a vital part, especially on warm days like today. It's real important that we have the volunteers to help with that. Without the volunteers, Bloomsday wouldn't exist.
All up and down the course, there are people that are involved in this celebration. It really is a celebration of what Spokane's all about.
At Wendell, you are respected, you are valued, and we have an experience tailored to fit your lifestyle.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Gina.
And we bought 3 cars from Wendell Motors. Throughout the day, I just kind of would get updates, texts, phone calls, and I was actually really impressed with how my wife was taken care of.
People should shop at Wendell because they make you feel like family.
For your tailored experience, come see us at Wendell at the Y or Wendell.com.
What happens when you pay your ABC membership?
We're glad you asked.
We educate the future workforce.
We keep you safe.
Negotiate the best insurance rates.
Organize networking events.
Implement 401k programs.
To keep our members open shop.
Offer discounts to make you profitable.
Each path to success is different.
But they all start and go through ABC.
We are ABC, Associated Builders and Contractors of the Inland Pacific.
Where all the best builders and contractors locally unite.
When building a home or considering a major remodel, who are you going to choose? The Spokane Home Builders Association is an organization that works to elevate professionalism in the residential construction industry. We promote, protect, and educate for our community, building our community one home at a time. We are the Spokane Home Builders Association.
What's up, Spokane? I'm your host, Connor Sundet, here to keep you up to date on all things in our wonderful city. First, come out and enjoy some Pacific Northwest comics at the Spokane Comedy Club on Wednesday the 24th. The club is putting on a special edition pre-Thanksgiving special with open micers from around the state. In other exciting news, the event is free to the public. There is a food and drink recommendation to keep the lights on in the place, but it's only a recommendation. However, seats fill up quickly, so be sure to reserve a seat on the Spokane Comedy Club website. The website has you put in your credit card information, but there's no charge to your bank account. I myself may be going, so I tried it just to be sure. If you intend on going with a group, try to reserve seats in advance in groups of 4 so you can have a full table to yourself without having to sit with any strangers. So get out there and laugh it up before you see your family this weekend. Next, if you're going to make it to Thanksgiving feast, make sure you sign up for the annual Thanksgiving Day Turkey Trot. The 5K race is a staple in most areas, but the Spokane version is a little special because it takes you through the historic Riverfront Park area. Event sign-up is on the Turkey Trot website and secures you a race bib, a miles log, and a choice between your 2 different t-shirts, all with great graphics. Runners are free to start their runs at any time at 7:30 North Hamilton between 7:30 a.m. and 9 a.m. However, there is a race packet pickup at 6:30 a.m. and 8:45 a.m., so make sure you plan ahead to pick those up before 9 when the race starts. I recommend getting there a bit early in case the lines are long, so just be safe and go in advance. Each year, the proceeds are collected for the race and they go to a special cause in the Spokane area. This year is no different, and the benefactors of this is Active for Youth. This organization's mission is teaching sports and introducing healthy activities to children at a young age to combat childhood obesity. So get out there and enjoy a great run and support a great cause. and feel great while doing it. And that's what's Up Spokane. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be right back after this.
Contact us today to learn how PowerView automation makes everyday living effortless.
Why are housing prices going up so fast in the Spokane area? Hello, I'm Darren Watkins with the Spokane Association of Realtors. It's a simple case of supply and demand. Since 2010, we have seen the number of available homes on the market fall dramatically, from 2,348 in January of 2010 to only 164 per month in 2021. That's a 94% reduction in our housing supply. The result? Housing prices began to climb rapidly in 2015, with a median home price in Spokane County of $179,000. That same home today would cost you $380,000. That is, if you can even find a home to buy.
For the last, I'd say at least 10 to 15 years, I think we've been underbuilding. We've seen this crisis coming, and nothing's being done to fix it.
There are no homes to purchase. When there is a home that comes up that buyers like, you're up against 20 plus other buyers who are making an offer on the same house.
Adding to the crisis, thousands of families are fleeing major West Coast cities such as Seattle, Portland, and Los Angeles. Among the top destinations, Spokane, Washington.
When you talk about an out-of-town buyer, they've sold that home in a coastal market, let's say, a Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, LA, take your pick, for $1.5 million, and they come to Spokane and can replace that thing and be in a nicer home for $500,000.
When there are 20 plus offers on a property that they feel like they don't have a chance. So now they're having to look at homes far lower than they're even qualified for, because they have to compete with cash deals or something that goes so much further over the list price, and it's extremely defeating for clients.
The answer is clear. We need more homes immediately, especially for entry-level workforce housing. Every day that we wait, those costs are just going to keep going up and up.
First, join us for an exclusive inside look at the Milk Bottle, a classic Spokane landmark that doubles as a wonderful restaurant. Take a look.
Hi, welcome to Spokane Talks. I'm Jackson Adams. Today we're at the Milk Bottle up on Garland Street, and I'm joined by the owner, Tom Ritchie.
Hi there.
Welcome, Tom.
Yeah.
So this place has got a lot of history, been around since the 30s. So I've heard it's bounced around in ownership, and a lot of stuff has happened. So kind of how did it make its way to you?
So it made its way to me. My parents had it for 20 years.
Okay,
and then me and my wife bought it 3 years ago.
Okay,
so,
awesome.
Yeah.
So fresh owner.
Fresh
Nice.
owner, somewhat.
It's in the family though, in the family.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I've been working for my parents off and on for that whole time.
Fair enough,
You know what I mean?
fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, what did it originally start out as?
Just a Benoit dairy in the early 1930s.
Okay, cool.
You know what I mean? So it was just like just milk and
dairy,
you know what I mean? The butter, whatever. And then recently, like, it changed over, like you said. There was obviously, I think there was a bunch of different stores after that. You know what I mean? Like, there was like an antique shop, a smoke shop, like.
So it's seen it all here.
Yeah. There's been all sorts of different scenarios.
Yeah, and there's actually a sister Milk Bottle downtown.
There is, yeah. And, you know, that's been a whole bunch of different things, like a masonry outfit, like a communications, like office. So it's never been like a restaurant.
Right, straight up. So it's seen a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's a diverse location, but always iconic with the Milk Bottle.
Yeah, there was a third one, but it's no longer, and it was in the Valley, South Hill area.
Okay.
Before my time.
Yeah.
So
I've also heard there's been a couple movies shot here, some famous people.
Yeah, in and out, a bunch of different movies. There's, the recent one was with, dang it, forgot his name.
Johnny Depp?
No, Johnny Depp, but there's one after that. He played in like Brothers. He was from, I'd have to look it up.
No worries.
Yeah.
It's good to know, though. You guys are on the map.
Yeah. I guess it's been good. You know, it brings a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
But
cool.
other than that, just doing my thing, you know.
Very cool, very cool. And how did COVID treat you guys?
Not so good.
Like everybody, you know what I mean?
Right?
Business,
yeah. There's even big businesses.
Oh, absolutely.
Small businesses. I mean, there's people that are restaurants that have just shut down.
Oh,
you know?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, not gonna make it. Not gonna do it. Obviously, I had to go with 20% at the beginning, and then went to 50%. You know, and then still. In here, you know, mask mandate and all
Absolutely,
that. So it's been rough.
Did you guys do the takeout thing during COVID? Was that helpful?
Yeah, takeout's always helpful, and we have such a pretty good following, customer base.
Community around you, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. I mean, it hurts, you know, not being able to have 100% capacity, or you know what I mean, through that whole time. It's just, I'm not going to say it wasn't a struggle. So, I mean, it's been rough.
Yeah, and now that we're on our way out of COVID, are you guys open back up completely? Are we ramping things back up?
We're ramping things back up as much as I can. I mean, you still have those customers out there that are cautious.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Absolutely. So they're like, I'm not going to come out anyways. What if they're not vaccinated, or he's not wearing his mask, or, you know what I mean? So you get those...
it's tough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's rough.
Yeah. Switching gears a little bit, I hear all your guys' ice cream is homemade.
It is. It's all homemade. So, and that's, you know, something that we thrive on. Everything's homemade. You know, I make bread, fresh, everything's fresh. But going back to ice cream is, I mean, yeah, it's our go-to, you know what I mean? Like our shakes and
That's like your thing. That's if you're gonna come here, you should get some ice cream.
Yeah, for sure.
Good enough.
Yeah.
And I gotta ask anybody who has a.
Sorry.
You're good. Anybody who has a restaurant.
Right, you check those buns, please. Oh, you already said it. It goes early.
Cost only 6 minutes.
Yeah.
I got
35.
No worries. That's a running restaurant right there.
Yeah.
It's moving.
Yeah. Don't want to burn those buns.
Hey, fair enough. Fair enough.
But going back to ice cream, our shakes. I mean, we've been like, I don't know, we're always like top 3 on the order of ice cream and milkshakes. So, I mean, everybody knows about the ice cream, so which is a good thing. Yeah. But, you know, I believe in more than that. I'm like, okay, here, try this sandwich, you know, or try our bacon cheeseburger. We have a special that's milkshake, cheeseburger, and a fry, or any side you want.
Sounds like all you need right there.
That is what you need. It's good, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so like I said, I make all of our bread, not all of it, but our buns are homemade. And
don't want to burn them.
Don't want to burn them, no. Yeah. But yeah, other than that.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to see you guys are kind of building back up, ramping up, getting better in the face of COVID. And the last question I have for you is favorite thing on the menu and favorite flavor of ice cream.
Ooh, wow. My favorite thing on the menu would probably just be a bacon cheeseburger.
Plain and simple, cut and dry.
Yeah.
It's that good.
Yeah, I'm a believer in our Reuben. Our Reubens are good. We have cheesesteaks, sandwiches. So those are hard to beat sometimes. So I fluctuate. You know what I mean? I get the
all right.
I get the
a little hankering for something here, hankering for something there. All right.
So, and then as far as ice cream, man, I probably would have to go with Huckleberry.
Whoa.
But I'm a big believer. I like our lemon custard.
Okay.
So, and then everything else, obviously, it's hard to beat. We have a River City sludge.
Woo!
It has brownies and fudge and chocolate. You know what I mean? It's like the chocolate believer. You know what I mean? So, yeah, everything's good.
Yeah, well, Tom,
good.
thanks. Guys,
Yeah.
come down to the milk bottle, grab some huckleberry ice cream, bacon cheeseburger. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, you're welcome.
What? You haven't been to the library lately? Stop in today and see that the library is more than books. Spokane County Library District facilities feature on-site technology, including Wi-Fi, computers, and printers, as well as free use of meeting rooms. The Library District offers events and programs for all ages, from story times to career development and employer classes to Social Security workshops. Our staff is well trained and happy to help. Find out more about your library at scld.org.
I was selling drugs. I was in and out of prisons. I didn't know how to read or write. I couldn't even read the sign at UGM that said, "Hope starts here." Union Gospel Mission taught me to trust people. I have a job. I'm learning to read. I never thought that I would find a community that would support me like UGM does. I am so grateful to God. Real change is possible. Union Gospel Mission.
Starting a digging project? Before you reach for the shovel, you must click callbeforeyoudig.org, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. Protect our buried utilities and click callbeforeyoudig.org.
Next, join us for a clip from The Car Guy, where Klaus has a special interview with Bill Simmer, where they focus on their background in the field and a special opportunity coming up for Bill. Enjoy.
All righty then. Are you ready, Bill?
I'm ready when you are.
All right. Are we live? Terrific. Thanks, Sam. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to The Car Guy. My name is Klaus Kinder. I'm your host this morning. I'd like to welcome Bill Simmer to our show today. How are you, Bill?
Hey, I'm good, Klaus. Good to be here.
Thank you. I love that you're here. I met you about 10 years ago, and I was working at the Porsche dealership at the time.
That's right.
And we had a common interest in cars, I think.
I think we did, and you convinced me to bring out an early 911 when you were doing an introduction of the newest 911 model at that point, and you brought a friend of yours, Tony Adamowitz, along with you.
I did. Tony was a great guy, and gosh darn it, it was great that I was super glad that you got to meet him. Tony was a world-renowned race car driver, and you actually gave him one of your cars to drive.
I did. I had him drive my 1969 911S in at the Spokane Festival of Speed. He was our celebrity driver, and what a great guy! It was like having your best friend driving your car.
Yeah.
You know, he hung out in the car trailer. There was no pretense. He was just easy to get along with, and you know, Klaus, that's kind of how I find people in this hobby. You know, or even in the business of racing or in cars, if they're truly an enthusiast. They tend to be pretty cool people that you like to spend time with.
You know, it's true. I think it's the only sport that I've ever been involved in where everybody will help everybody until you get on the racetrack.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then that's pretty much over.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a great hobby. And I still thank you for letting Tony drive your car. I think that was just awesome.
Well, that was the coolest thing, and actually just spend the weekend with him. And if you think back to when I first met him at the dealership for that launch of the new 911, I don't know if you recall, but you know, he was autographing things for people, and I kind of stayed back because I'd read a little bit about his history, and I asked him a specific question about a specific race, and he talked till about 2 a.m. I remember, you know, people were asleep on the desks, you know, spouses generally, of both genders who were not really into it, and those of us who were into it were having a great conversation with Tony, and I'll never forget that night. It was just incredible.
Yeah, he was a terrific guy and a good friend.
Yeah.
You are a just recently retired CPA.
A recovering CPA,
Recovering.
I'd like to say.
I've never heard of that.
It's true.
And one of the best known and probably most respected CPAs in all of Spokane, perhaps all of Washington, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, a few people know me, but that's very kind of you to say.
No, I've heard good things, nothing but good things. So what got you into cars?
Well, you know, I grew up around it, Klaus. My dad was a mechanic and had his own little shop by Gonzaga Prep, Ace Auto Repair. And as a kid, I would be down there after school playing. I mean, I got a workbench, I had tools, I could take things apart, I could make things. You had a pile of, vehicles outside that were parked, behind the shop that I could go take parts off of. And what a great place for a kid just to go, in a safe environment, go kind of learn how to, play with cars and learn about them. And I learned not to hold on to the spark plug wire on a motorcycle when your buddy kicks over the starter. That was one of my early lessons.
That's a very quick learning experience.
Yeah, very quick learning experience. I had a go-kart that I would take across Nevada and run around Gonzaga Prep's parking lot and for hours at a time. And when I got to be a little bit older, probably about 10, a little bit older, my dad would pull me in and I'd be doing a brake job on one of his customers' cars. Probably violating child labor laws as they may have existed at that time, although it was a long time ago. So it was a great experience, and I took that, and sadly, he died in an accident at work when I was 11, and I inherited his tools, which he brought home, and I started to work on things at home and repair people's lawnmowers and do those types of things. But I always thought of it, I'd prefer to have that be a hobby than be what I do for an occupation, because it frankly makes it more fun.
I wish I had that mechanical aptitude. I don't. I put things together and there's always spare parts left over. So,
well, that's normal, Klaus. There should be some spare parts left over. They say if you rebuild enough carburetors, after a while, you'll have enough parts to build a new one.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, since we share this affliction for Porsches, I'm not sure if it's an affliction or an addiction, one of the two. What was your first Porsche?
My first Porsche was a 72 914. Neat little car, 1.7 liter, pretty stock, and yet it was a lot of fun. You would not be surprised, I modified it a little bit.
No.
It became a 1.8 pretty quickly and had a little more performance to it. And stupidly, I sold it because I needed money for a down payment on my first house. My wife and I were, kind of bursting at the seams in an apartment or a rental house and saying, no, we need to have our own place. And so I sold it for the down payment, and it was totaled about a week later.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And so that began, really my practice of not selling them, buying them, keeping them. And I've sold a couple since, and I regret doing that.
I've seen some of the cars that you have, and you have a propensity for hoarding a few.
I do. I'm just worried.
Which I appreciate. Yeah, I really,
I sell
do.
them.
Because I get to live vicariously through your collection.
Well, it's all fun. You spread it out over, and it seems rather extravagant, but you spread it out over a number of years, it's not really a big thing.
Yeah.
You buy one, you restore it. A few years later, you buy another one, you restore it. When 40 years have gone by, you've got a couple of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a favorite? Do you have a favorite
That's
car?
a tough question because I like different cars for different reasons. My little 57 Speedster, it is so much fun to drive. It's like, I call it the little boat, like the Barchetta for, Ferraris. You feel like you're in a little boat. And on a nice summer day or, early fall day when it's cool, there's nothing better than driving that car around. I never put the top up on it because you really can't see out of it if you do. But, in those conditions, that's certainly my favorite car. But I have other favorites, depending on, what I'm doing and, what.
But you think that one's it? Do you think the Speedster's probably it? If you had a choice and you're going to go somewhere one day, do you think that one's it?
I kind of think of it a different way, Klaus. I think what would be the last car I would sell from my collection?
Okay.
And that's the last car.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I've got the 62 Lotus 23 that is the most amazing little car on the racetrack. So it would probably be my second to the last car that I would sell. It's just a little scooter, and you just have fun with it. And it's a real period piece. In the day, they were really, really sought after. A lot of famous people drove them. And my best story is when I drove out here in the Spokane Festival of Speed, the year I first bought it, I put it on the pole. I was running with the Formula Ford group with a closed wheel car, and I pull into my trailer, and none other than George Fulmer, who had driven a 23 with a Porsche engine in it,
really
had raced one with a Porsche engine, was waiting in my paddock to get me out of my car and congratulate me for putting the car on the pole. And I'm pinching myself thinking, George Fulmer, Can-Am world champion for Porsche driving the 917, and he's congratulating me. But I mean, that's the effect that little car has. People look at it with a lot of nostalgia, and even now at the races, people come up and say, whatever you do, don't quit driving that car. Don't lock it away in a museum or put it in your garage and never bring it out because it's so cool to see it out here.
And that happens to a lot of race cars.
It does.
A lot of the cars have become so bloody valuable.
Yeah.
That it's almost impossible to put them on a racetrack and take the risk of having that car damaged or written off. Right.
And so what happens today is certainly on an international level, at the highest levels, you'll see people will have, let's say, a Ford GT, and they will build a replica of that, a very precise replica of that car, and they'll keep the real one in their collection, and they'll race the clone, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, that makes
and
sense.
You understand why they do it.
Sure.
Unfortunately, they sometimes increase the performance where it's somewhat ridiculous, but beyond that, I totally get it. And you mentioned my '69 911S that Tony got to drive. When I first started racing, that was the first car I raced. And
that was actually my next question.
That was it. And I would be on track, and I would in Seattle, and I'd look over and turn one, and there would be a '57 Ferrari Testarossa. And believe me, I gave him a lot of room because even then the car was worth a lot of money. But what's that car worth today?
It's $20 million.
$20 million. Do you think
Nick Mason, the drummer for Pink Floyd, goes out there and drives his 250 GTO. That's probably a $45 to $50 million car. It's hard to fathom that.
It is hard to fathom that,
right?
Isn't it?
It's just an enormous amount of money. But
and I guess you can rebuild anything if you damage it, but mostly. But it's ideal if you don't do that.
Yeah.
So I understand why people have put them away. And it was just the time, 25 years ago, even though that was a valuable car, the guy that owned it said, I can bring it out and enjoy it.
It's funny. I was sitting in a backyard years ago in Southern California. A guy by the name of Dick Marconi who owned Herbalife. We get together on Saturday afternoons and kind of hang out at Dick's house. And I was sitting with this guy who happened to be sitting next to me, telling me the story of that he used to own the 250 GTO bread van.
No way.
He sold that car in 1967 for $12,500 and thought he had hit a home run.
And hates himself now.
With a passion.
It hurts. It does hurt.
Have you always vintage raced, or did you do some modern racing before you got into vintage, or?
Vintage racing was always where I wanted to go because I love how it captures the period that it does. And I know as time has gone on, they've allowed newer cars in because they have to.
I think the romance is gone. From the years gone by, that you and I remember as a kid being a Jimmy Clark fan and a Graham Hill fan and a Fangio fan, and there was romance. And even when you went to racetracks, you could get close to the cars and the mechanics and the drivers, and you can't do that anymore today.
And vintage racing tries to recreate that to some degree, and to some degree they succeed.
Yeah.
Some marquee events do an incredible job of it. Think of the Goodwood reunion. I mean, that is just an amazing thing.
And we're going to talk about that reunion
because
I understand you are now a member of the Goodwood.
Well, I'm still a member in waiting, so I'm
a member in waiting.
Member
I love the English. A member in waiting.
Member in waiting. But they did invite me to participate in the members meeting, and so they did allow me to go on there to at least theoretically go on the racetrack with their members, and they weren't willing to accelerate my membership. There's only so many members, and so you don't get in unless someone gets out. But you have this member in waiting thing, so member of the fellowship, and so I'm in the queue, as they would say, waiting to come up and do that.
I would think there's probably some pretty important race car drivers that belong to that club.
There are, yeah, there are.
Well, name a few.
Well, Sir Jackie Stewart was one that when I was there in 19 and driving demonstration laps in the reunion that they invited me to do, and Sir Jackie led the group. It was primarily Brian Redmond, certainly. Dario Franchetti was there a few weeks ago. He is obviously very comfortable in that space, hanging out with his friends.
It's odd Franchidian being a Scotsman, right?
Yeah, that's right. And he had these little driving shoes on with Indianapolis 500, the little wings and that.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and so yeah, it is a storied group. That's of course the track where it is a safe track. It's fairly flat. There's not a lot of runoff, so if you do go off, you hit these tire walls that are filled with dirt. But that's the track where Bruce McLaren lost his life.
Right.
So as I drive around, I think about that, and you had the early days of aerodynamics and a equipment failure, and But for me as an amateur, it seems like a very, very safe place. But I'm not going that quickly either.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. So you have a rather interesting opportunity coming up to drive a rather special car, Sam. Where is it? Can we get it on the big screen, or is that one over there? The Xerox Special. Talk to me about that car and the history of that car and who drove that car and how important it was, because it's cool.
How
It's
controversial
way cool.
it was, I think, is what we think of. So a good friend of mine owns that car, and it's based on a 1961 Cooper T53 Formula One car. And
And I understand you got to meet Cooper's daughter.
I did.
Looking at this car.
So I was at the reunion in 2019. And this gal walks up, pleasant gal, and says, "Do you own this car?" I said, "No, a good friend of mine does." And she goes, "Well, I'm Sally Cooper, and my dad designed this car." And she had her grandson, so the great grandson of John Cooper. We got him in the car, got some pictures, and
how cool.
she was just so pleasant. She said, "I haven't seen it since I was a girl. It's great to see this car again." But it was controversial. Roger Penske was probably stretching, or finding every little benefit within the rule book that he could exploit, which is okay. It's what you do. And he did it rather well. He put a body on that car, made it into a two-seater. There's a little jump seat.
Oh, is there?
Over to the right of the driver, you lift up a little panel, and there's truly a seat there. I don't think any human could actually fit in it, but I don't think that was a requirement. And a good friend of mine who lives in Maple Valley was a good friend of Pete Lovely's. And Pete Lovely reached out to him at some point and said, "I know some of the mechanics who were with Texas Rosebud Racing in the day, and they've got some interesting parts left over." Because, race cars get used, abused, damaged, reassembled, reframed, and this mechanic would just collect bits. We had a bunch of bits from the Xerox Special, all the suspension bits. It had a very bent-up frame that had been damaged, and at that point it had been widened because Bruce McLaren bought the car from Roger Penske and widened the car and put a V8 in it and made it into a Can-Am car. And that car still exists today.
Really?
So the version of the Xerox Special that my friend owns is really a restoration or recreation, some people would say, with original bits of the original format of that car. So it's got the original type of engine and gearbox and all of that, and it's a Coventry Climax type engine. It's not the V8 that is in the Can-Am version of the car. It's a wonderful torquey 2.5 liter engine. Just performs really, really well. It's a fun car. I'm told that chassis was driven in the T53 form, the chassis that my friend has, by Pedro Rodriguez.
Really? That I did not know.
My friend had to buy another chassis because the one he had been widened. So if he was going to restore or recreate the original version of the car, he found another Lotus T53 chassis. And he's nice enough to let me drive it. The day it came out, when he had just finally completed his construction of the car, brought it to the racetrack, he gets a text message from the personal secretary to the Duke of Richmond, who owns the Goodwood facility. And they said, "We want your car here," the very day it came out.
What an honor.
And so over the next few months, they were able to get FIA papers in the car, have it inspected to prove its provenance. And then he was able to take it back to Goodwood in 19, drive it there all season. I went back for the reunion and was able to invite her to drive the car in demonstration laps. Cooper was the featured mark that year. And then I was invited back again just a few weeks ago to drive the car in the members meeting. And darn it, I couldn't because I got a breakthrough case of COVID in England. So I had to be in my hotel room quarantining the day that the race ran. But I did get to practice on tracking the car. And I've driven it at Pacific Raceways in the rain. And it's an amazing little car to drive.
What a great experience.
And I hope I have another chance to go back, a second bite at that apple.
I got a feeling you probably will.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, I got a feeling. You have a favorite race car driver?
Oh, no, I don't.
Really?
Again, I like different people for different reasons. I mean, you think of Fangio. I mean, what an amazing guy. And in his time, the cars required someone big like he was to muscle him around. Jim Clark.
That's when the tires were skinny and the drivers were fat.
Exactly. I mean, Jim Clark, when you look at the things he did, just amazing. And And I do tend to like the older drivers. People have been around this sport for a while. Again, it's the nostalgia and history of it that I really enjoy.
Yeah, the Ennis Irelands and the Sterling Mosses and
Yeah.
the Jimmy Clarks and the Graham Hills, and I get all of that. I really truly do. I think it was a different. In fact, I know it was a different era in motorsport, and it was more dangerous than it is today. And it took a certain amount of courage, I think, back in the day, to climb into one of these things.
Yeah, it would.
We lost a lot of drivers in the 60s and 70s.
Well, you think of the post-war period where a lot of that generation, the greatest generation, they showed no fear for this.
Yeah.
Really for anything. Yeah. They would just go out and do these things.
And they didn't get paid for it.
And they didn't get paid at all well for it. I mean,
it astonished me when I found out that Tony hardly ever got paid at all. I mean, he was a factory Porsche driver pretty much. He drove for Dan Gurney.
Yeah.
He was the only American driver to drive a 917 in Europe. Drove a Ferrari 512P at Le Mans and finished second. And to think that you would do that for virtually
nothing,
right? Just the chance to get in.
Right. Just
I'm all in.
Game.
I'm all in.
Well, George Fulmer, when I met George, he'd moved up to this area, and he was driving a school bus in Post Fall. So here you have this guy who was a Can-Am world champion driving a 917. He's driving a school bus. It's because, there was not much money in it.
No.
There were not pensions for those guys. No. Nothing like there is today. And so I have a lot of admiration for them, a lot of respect. I read a lot about that period, about drivers. Archie Scott Brown, I don't know if you've read about him, a British driver. He was a thalidomide baby, and so he had really only one whole arm. The other arm was stunted, and he was able to race listers and race well. Sadly,
that was not an easy car to drive.
Not an easy car to drive.
Tony drove in '73 for Carl. I think he was sponsored by Carlton Beer, and he drove a Lola, if I'm not mistaken, and for most of the season with a broken hand. And that is a car that, with being healthy, is difficult to drive.
Would be very difficult to drive.
Very difficult to drive, and yet he pulled it off somehow with one-handed.
You read about these people, and in a few cases where we know them, you just come away with this huge respect. So that's kind of the period I'm stuck in. Not a bad thing.
No, it's a very, very cool thing. I'm really, really glad you came today. Well, the thing that has always astonished me about Spokane is how many great cars there are here and people that own them, and yet we never get to see them, or rarely do we get to see them. I've been astonished by a couple of the cars. You know what I do for a living, and some of the people that call me up and say, "Well, I have a Cobra," and the first thing I think is, if you've got some plastic kit car, and all of a sudden I show them it's in a real bloody thing. Another gentleman called me up 3-4 years ago, said, "I have a Facel Vega." I said, "In Spokane?" Right. And it's amazing the amount of cars here. There are some really, really great collectible cars, and again, the people that own them as well, but we rarely get to see them, unfortunately.
I call it the car next door, because they're out there, and I'll see it. You do too. You're driving around your neighborhoods, a garage door is open, and you spy something in there.
Yeah.
And if there's someone there, I usually go talk to them. And not only is the car really special, but the story behind it's incredible.
Yes.
Like the guy in my neighborhood who has a pre-war car that his parents bought new. They've kept, and when they finally passed, the boys were all sitting around the table deciding who wanted it, and he was the youngest, and he was sure it was going to get away from him. And all of his older brothers passed on it, and and now it's in his garage, and he takes it out and drives it and enjoys it, and and you hear about his stories about going with his family on family vacations in that car and doing things, and the stories behind it are almost
I agree.
maybe as special as the
I
cars
agree.
themselves.
I buy and sell vintage cars for a living, which and sometimes the stories are even more interesting than the automobile themselves.
Yep.
It's just really kind of a fun deal. I'm really glad you came today. I'm really glad we got to spend some time. Hopefully our viewers will get some idea of just the wonderful people that we have here in this city who have great cars and enjoy this wonderful hobby.
Well, it's been fun to be here, and hopefully we'll have a chance to chat again.
What I'd like to do is maybe take a look at one or two of your cars and maybe give our viewers an opportunity to share those as well. It'd be kind of fun.
Cool.
Excellent. Thanks for being here, Bill.
Gladly.
Sam?
Spokane Realtors are dedicated to helping you find the right place to live. We're more than 2,000 strong, small business men and women guiding you through this most important purchase. We're also your neighbors, giving back thousands in volunteer hours to make our community a better place. We believe owning a home helps you live longer, with stronger families and better neighborhoods. That's who we are, ready to help you find your way home. Call one today.
Next, join us with Jabriel as he talks with Phil Altmeyer about the issues facing Spokane and what Union Gospel Mission is doing to help. Take a look.
Hi everyone, I'm Jabriel Andrade. I'm here with Phil Altmeyer, who is the Executive Director at Union Gospel Mission, it's a great organization that really tries to help people out of homelessness in the Pacific Northwest. Am I correct?
Yeah, we're in Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, you bet.
And we're just here to have a conversation about what they're doing and how they're trying to help people out. So first of all, how are you doing today, Phil?
Jabriel, I'm doing great because I just got over COVID.
Oh,
so it's a great,
yeah.
I'm 3 weeks out of it and I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, that's
Life
great.
is sweet.
So just what's kind of the general objectives of Union Gospel Mission here in Spokane and Coeur d'Alene?
So Jabriel, we have 4 shelters. 2 of them are for recovery and 2 of them are for rescue. And so our goal is to end homelessness. We're not interested in simply feeding and sheltering people. And the uniqueness of who we are is that we deal with every area of a person's life, whether it be the physical, the mental, emotional, and also the spiritual. And so we believe that real change takes place in the heart. So the uniqueness of who we are, Jabriel, if you look around the city, there are a lot of shelters. Our shelters are ones that are safe and a healing environment. So because of that, no drugs, no alcohol. We restore dignity by having people give back and do chores. There's a spiritual component, but we're that safe place. We're not interested in people. A lot of homeless are struggling with mental illness, but a lot are with drugs. And so we want a place that a person says, I've had enough, or I want help. I can come into a safe environment where no one's shooting up next to me and I can get the help I need. And the uniqueness of who we are, we've placed over 200 people for the last 5 years on jobs. We want to end homelessness, and as one former president said, it starts with a job.
Yeah.
And so we're committed to seeing people become contributing members of society. And I believe, Jabriel, the best thing that we do that produces change is you produce a community where there's hope, there's encouragement, and there's support. And so the people that come into our facility, they're wanting change, they're encouraging one another, and it creates an environment for change.
Yeah, that's great. And you talked about addiction, and addiction is one of the biggest things that puts people in this cycle of homelessness. Can you kind of go more in depth in what services you kind of provide for the people who are in these shelters and are trying to recover and trying to, beat this kind of monster that's inside of them?
Right. So to go back and understand addiction is to understand that for most people, we got to ask the question, how did they get headed down this path? And without question, as you begin to look at our programs that I'll talk about here in a minute, you see that there's usually trauma that happened in their life as young children, in their family. How do you cope with trauma? You numb the pain. And that's why a lot of people turn to drugs. Alcohol, a lot of times it can start out as fun, partying, and pretty soon the alcohol controls them. But again, all of these are numbing mechanisms. So again, we've got so many people that have been through programs that are 30, 60, 90 day. And what we've found is unless you deal with the whole person, unless you go back and deal with the woundedness, the trauma, it's just a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
So our program's probably one of the longest. It's 18 months. And it's in 4 different phases. And that last phase is employment and finding their giftedness, finding them a job. But those other phases, we're dealing with the spiritual, the emotional, the mental, dealing with what's driving my behaviors. What's the trauma that I haven't dealt with in my life? How do I get healing from that? Whether it be through forgiveness, counseling. We have certified counselors. So our program is real intense. The people that they attend classes all day, they have a component that's work, and they're working in therapy groups, sharing their story with one another, and it's all part of the healing process, especially when you can be safe and talk to others about what you're dealing with. And they're all on this journey together. And again, it's that environment of encouragement and support and dealing with the hurts and the pain.
Yeah, just having that community, I'm sure it's such a kind of like a safety blanket almost, especially when you have others who are going through the same things you are. And you talked about how the last step is work. And one of the hardest things when you are, homeless and in poverty is finding work and finding steady work. How do you kind of help these people get back on their feet per se and, find a steady job that they are able to support themselves with?
Yeah. So things have really changed. I've been doing this 35 years, and the big question would always come up, why all the homeless? And it used to be, without question, the number one reason there weren't any jobs. Housing is one of the issues people bring up today. But today, if a person can just show up, he can get a job. There are so many companies that cannot find people. Our own thrift stores right now, we're short people.
Yeah.
So the issue today's culture has nothing to do with availability of jobs. It has everything to do with, is a person able to hold down a job?
Yeah.
Are they able to show up on time? Are they able to be there day in and day out? So again, we have not only the program that's about recovery, but we have a good worker employment ready program, we call it, where we're having them do work around the mission and help prepare them what it looks like to be teachable, to be accountable, to show up, and helping prepare them to go into the workforce. But again, I'm thankful today that jobs and finding them is not the problem.
Yeah.
It's getting the person healthy enough that they can show up every day and work.
Yeah, and a lot of that, I'm sure, is part of your program, is kind of getting them in that right mindset to be able to, show up to this job, work every day, and things like that. But you also mentioned how now the problem is housing, and how does it kind of work, with such a housing market that we live in right now. Like,
right.
It's so hard to find a place. A lot of rents going up everywhere. How do you guys kind of try and help people who are homeless try and find affordable housing and things like that?
Well, one of the things that we've learned that's been helpful to us, even though we have an 18-month program, I would tell your listeners this is true about addiction and recovery. A person, and again, the majority of people that we're working with have been addicts for 20, 30 years. It's not just 1, 2 years, okay? So here's what the statistics say. That if a person has been clean and sober and working actively on their addiction, attending recovery, what have you, for 5 years, 85% will go on and be successful. So our program's one of the longest. It's almost 2 years. So what we're working on right now is providing ongoing supportive housing where they continue their recovery, where they live in community. See, I believe that people were created to live in community. If you look at most addicts, they're isolated.
Yeah.
They may have buddies, but their buddies are doing the same thing, drugs.
Yeah.
But everyone, I think, longs for community. So we're working now on providing supportive housing. So in Coeur d'Alene, we have 3 fourplexes where the women right next door to our campus can live independently and continue to get the support they need. Here in Spokane, our Student Impact Center that was on East Sprague, that used to be our old crisis shelter, so old hotel, it has like 14 rooms. We are just converting that now over to housing for men coming out of the program, that they eat together, they live in community, and they support each other. We are doing our best to create that environment for success for the people that go through our program. That's our goal. Not just free. The interesting thing, they can all pay rent because they're making money.
Yeah.
And they're, even with minimum wage where it's at, but at a level that they can afford. So it's 30% of their salary, and they have the rest to take care of the other costs that are increasing. But anyway, that's what we're working on, providing that kind of housing that, again, sets them up for success. So they have that 5 years and that support, and they have a community that comes alongside them. I just believe that's so critical. Homelessness is about a lack of relationship, a lack of community. And when you place someone in that, they thrive. I mean, you go to GU, you have different communities on campus, like take your basketball team. They're all there playing ball together, supporting one another in a community where they get better and better and better at the game. Well, I think it's the same in recovery and addiction. Surround yourself with other people that are saying, I'm going to work on this. And let's encourage each other. And again, they thrive. So you create that community of that's safe, healing, and supportive.
Yeah, and that's just great. And so you said it's kind of like, are they completely independent in those?
Yeah,
kind of
we
hotels?
work toward that. Yeah, because to make that transition eventually back into the community somewhere, you want them to learn how to live independently.
Yeah.
But again, I think long term, and that's what we encourage too, whether it be at work, but a church or somewhere else, where do you find a long term group of people that's your support group, your community? And again, it starts with at the mission, then this supportive housing, but we're also encouraging them to plug in somewhere in the community because we don't want to be the lifeblood forever.
Yeah.
They need another support system. So we're always encouraging that. That's why all of our graduates have mentors and they have a support team when they leave the program that help them in that transition. And the challenge today is housing. So that's what we're looking at, how we can provide that.
And that's so great. And so, but you mentioned there's crisis and there's recovery. What kind of are the differences between these two facilities in each of them, or what goes on in one and what goes on in the other?
Great question. So rescue is you said crisis. Yes. We call it rescue. Yeah. It's where we provide the basic needs for a person: food, shelter. They do a chore, because we believe strongly that everyone has unbelievable potential. So I think the worst thing we can do to homeless people is do everything for them, because it makes them feel worthless. But we have them do a chore, we have them give back, and then they feel value. So that's the rescue component. We have medical clinics, attorneys, we have all these services. Every need that they have is met at that level, and we're creating this environment of encouragement. And then the majority, because addiction is a part of their life and homelessness, a majority, we hope and encourage, move toward recovery and go into our programs. Some go into the good worker program. Some have fallen on hard times, whether it be a death in a family, a divorce, some tragic event, and they just need a timeout and a little bit of encouragement, and then they get back into the workaday world and get going. We want to be that support for that period of time. And so those people will go into our good worker program and we'll steer them toward a job. So it's either toward employment or identifying the root issue, which goes deeper, and encouraging them to go through a program. And we have 2 programs, one in Coeur d'Alene and one in Spokane for women, and then we have the men's program at the men's mission. Yeah. So we call it rescue and recovery. And then the final R is restoration, where we move them back into the community and the ongoing support.
Yeah. And when you move them back in the community, are you partnered with anyone nearby, especially in the Spokane and the city?
Yeah, well, I can tell you this, we probably have over 200 businesses that partner with us. So what we would do is I would look at you and I'd say, talk to me. What are your gifts? How has God made you? What do you enjoy doing in life? And this is part of our Voc Ed Center. And so then you say, Phil, I really like the medical field. So we'll say, okay, how can we get you a connection at one of the hospitals doing something? And we get you in that field. So we're not just saying, go work at a restaurant over here or go do this. We want you to do something that's your passion. And so they go and they do so many hours, 240 hours, we call internship. Yeah. And 8 out of 10 people are hired where they do their internship. And so, again, we're trying to steer them down a path, just like you went to school in the career, and I'm assuming since we're sitting here talking, you want to go into this field of TV, media, what have you.
Yeah.
So you're doing that now. So we would work with you if you went through our program. We'd say, where can we get you involved in a program where you could go work for a station? And you may not start out at the level you want to be, but again, you got to get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
So we encourage people toward careers, not just a job.
Yeah, and I'm sure that helps them, just, I'm sure anyone who is trying to come back, if they're in a field that they care about, they'd be way more likely to go to these jobs over and over again and get back into that rhythm of things, right?
Yeah, and what I hear you saying too is, so if like you want to work in media, TV, I say, oh, thanks for coming through the mission. McDonald's has a job over here, and you're going and you're showing up every day. Now, some people enjoy food service. That's great.
Yeah.
But you probably wouldn't. So all of a sudden, the old things of drugs and all these things, you're not happy at work. How's that all help in the picture? But when you're motivated, you have vision for your life, purpose, it makes a big difference. That's why we really focus on career, not just a job. Now, some people, our thrift stores are an excellent example. They haven't worked for years. So what does it look like even to show up and work 8 hours a day? Yeah. So our thrift stores become an excellent platform maybe to get started and also to get something on their resume that they can say, hey, I've worked here for 6 months, a year. That's what we do with our Good Worker program. Now someone else will hire them. And, so it's a good starting place just to get in the routine of showing up every day, working, being teachable, and coaching them along the way about attitudes and other things that every employer is looking for.
Yeah, and that's just kind of wondering, like, when you are homeless and you do feel like, whether it's through isolation, whether it's through just misfortunes and things like that, you feel like you've kind of abandoned and it's hard to have any hope or any kind of want to do anything. How do you help people who are who feel dejected, who kind of feel like they just want to give up at times?
So that's a great question, and that's where I believe in all that we're doing for the homeless, the shelter and the environment that we create makes a difference. If we simply open a shelter and you can come in and use drugs, do what you want to do, how much hope is there in that? But if you go into a shelter where people are encouraging you, they're believing in you, they're supporting you, and you see other people who say, hey, listen, I was right where you were at the end of a needle every day, sleeping on the street. Not anymore. That gives you hope. I can do it too. So you create, again, I go back to environment and community, a safe, healing environment. And I would suggest, as much as we want to help homeless people, it's unfortunate a lot of times we're not putting them in an environment to win. We're just worried about putting a roof over their head. And I think we got to have the kind of compassion that says it's more than a roof. It's more than a shelter. We've got to create the environments that produce change. And I often say, working with homeless people, we can learn a lot just in our own parenting and how we raise our kids. If they make the wrong choices, we don't reinforce it. We don't continue to reinforce the bad behavior. So what does real love and compassion look like? And that's the challenge we have, because we're in a culture and a society that says, whatever you want to do, go do it. Yeah. Who am I to tell you what to do? And in the meantime, today's news, fresh off the press, 30% increase in those people that died from drug overdose and drugs this past year. 30% increase. People are dying every day. We keep talking about COVID. How about all those from fentanyl, drugs, alcohol that are dying? Do we have compassion? And what does it look like to help them? Is it to leave them laying out there underneath the bridge right below us in this building? Or is it to say, I love you too much, and you know what? Being locked up or going somewhere will get you sober, and maybe you'll begin to think different and life will change. But we're doing the opposite. We're supplying them the drugs. We're supplying them the money. You briefly share with me you're from that great city of San Francisco. They're paying people, giving them money every month, even though they're homeless on the street. Where's that money going for? Drugs. How is that helping people? They're killing themselves every day. So what does compassion look like? And I think we need to wrestle with that.
Yeah, it's a hard, a lot of people can't, like, a lot of people want to help, but
Right.
it is hard helping, and especially when we have other homeless people for so long and been kind of taught almost as a society to treat them like they're not human.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a great thing that you guys are doing. And I'm just happy, we got to have this conversation. So I guess my last question is there any way that anyone who wants to help out, how would they help out?
I believe that when I said a safe, healing community, I believe what people long for is true love and relationship and community. It's just not our staff. It's over 600 volunteers that come alongside of the work that we do, and they get involved in a person's life. I don't know if you can look back to a coach, a teacher, someone who believed in you, supported you. So many of our individuals, because of the trauma and the way they were raised, they were always told they were stupid. No one believed in them. No one loved them. And the difference people can make is to come and get engaged, because they're people just like you and I, created in the image of God with tremendous potential, but they need someone to enter into their life and love them. So I always encourage people, they can come and volunteer. People can support us. It costs money to do what we do. Those two ways are critical, whether it be volunteering or financially being a financial partner. So again, you can go to our website and see when we have our volunteer orientation and say, how can I make a difference in someone's life?
All right. Well, I hope, what's the website exactly?
UGMspokane.org, I believe.
Yeah. And there they can find any information if they'd like to help out,
Yes.
whether financially or through volunteering.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's been a great conversation. Thank you for coming in today. Hopefully you guys are doing great work, and hopefully you can continue for as long as there are homeless people and that there are people who need this help. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I was fleeing domestic violence, drugs, chaos. I sent my sons away to keep them safe, and my daughter and I fled. We were living in my car. Finding UGM was kind of random, but I never felt so loved by so many people. I feel like someone is hugging me all the time, even when they're not physically present. Today, I'm living the life I know I was called to. Real change is possible. Union Gospel Mission.
Finally, join us for a clip from the locker room, where Andrew and Justin talk NFL, college basketball, and their weekly jabronis. Enjoy.
Lucky bird. You ready?
I think so. I don't know.
All right.
Are we actually?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes,
you are very much live currently.
Wow. Look at that.
Welcome.
Welcome
to the locker room. I'm your host, Justin Reed, alongside Andrew Tenney. We're here on a Wednesday because you had a job interview.
I did.
What was the world supposed to know?
You didn't, well, I mean, they can know. It was very inconsequential because she canceled it. Didn't cancel it. She rescheduled.
Nice.
Like 45 minutes after I sent that text, and I was like, wow, I feel like such a jackass. So I did not let either of you know until today because I was like, great. But I did tell her that can't do it Monday morning next week. So should be good for Monday morning next week.
Until we get a text Monday morning saying, hey, I have a job interview. And then she
the way this is going so far, I wouldn't be surprised, but crossing fingers, knocking on wood.
Is it cool?
It could be. It could be, potentially.
That's not true. Nope. Axe body spray retired in middle school, for sure. What's super funny about that is that
Come
thought
on,
crosses
you know
my
you
mind
do it.
a decent amount. Like literally middle school locker rooms were just literally like waves and clouds of Axe.
Do you guys have any kids in the locker rooms or just like in school in general that used BOD?
Oh
it was
my
like
gosh.
a little spray bottle.
That was almost worse than Axe.
I don't think so,
Okay, but you had a couple guys like
Yes.
that? You knew that? Okay, that was a very specific time and a very niche man or boy, rather, to use that kind of.
I'm also going to need Justin's opinions on your lower third today. That'd be ideal.
Definitely is always. There's not a time where he's not.
Banjo-Kazooie or Confused?
Oh my God,
that's pretty funny.
I think he missed the lead.
I missed everything there.
Yeah,
That's cool. It's cool. I just work really hard at this job. It's fine.
See, instead of actually having like topics for openings from now on, should we just shoot the shit for the first like 90 seconds of the show?
Well, if we don't have anything to talk about, sometimes I want to talk about something.
That's fair. We didn't.
You know
really
what Twitter
discuss it
account
beforehand.
is really good? You know, Wendy's is really good. Like a really nice, like a really funny Twitter account. But so is Moon Pie. Have you ever seen their banter?
Like
the official Moon Pie Twitter page.
I can't describe a moon pie.
Like a moon pie.
Cake.
Yeah.
Days?
There you go. That's a good description.
What else are we talking about? There's.
I don't know. You're weird. You use Axe body spray. I don't know what kind of Twitter you're on.
Yeah, for sure, man. All right, we already have. Good morning, Justin. Nice. I hate my friends. I hate them so much.
You have a lot of them.
They're.
I'm not sure how.
Yeah, it's because we all suck.
Do you need higher standards? Is that something?
Maybe. Well, in some regard, my friends are horrible people.
Sounds like.
I'm trying to share this on Twitter. How about this? I'll share it on Twitter while you tell me about one of our awesome sponsors.
Hey, that's a great segue. Yeah, our beloved classic historical sponsor, this show, Lucky Bird, a Spokane-based e-commerce and digital marketing company dedicated to helping local companies scale in the online world of e-commerce and digital marketing. Visit luckybirdbrands.com to have a down-to-earth, no-pressure conversation about your digital marketing and e-commerce strategies.
Can you talk for a second? No, I don't.
Yeah. Sam, what's going on?
What's up? How's it going?
Spider-Man trailer.
Oh, dude, we already talked about this for literally 28 minutes.
Yeah, we did.
10 out of 10.
Did you watch it, Justin?
So excited.
I did watch it last night.
Thoughts?
Oh, yeah. What are your thoughts?
Meg the Stallion. Thoughts?
Big Meg the Stallion.
I know who she is, but I also don't.
Also,
really know
it's
who
not
she
a Burger King commercial that I was talking about a few weeks back. I think it's a Popeyes commercial that she's on.
Doesn't she have a hot sauce with Popeyes?
I think so.
Who?
Meg the Stallion.
I don't think she's real.
Yeah.
Okay, she might be real. All right, let's jump into this while we.
It's definitely Popeyes that she has a hot sauce with.
Yep.
So the first thing I want to talk about before I forget, actually no, let's go over some 66s here. So the only one that's of interest to me for the Mariners is Tyler Olson. He only played here for 2 years, but he's a former Zag, so he makes the list, just like Marco. Seahawks, Andy Heck, don't know who he is, but he's the best Seahawk, number 66 of all time, allegedly. Mansfield Rado played from 2008 to 2010. I sort of remember him. Jordan Simmons from the last couple seasons, and currently Gabe Jackson's number 66.
Jordan Simmons, I did space on that one. Yeah, Gabe is. We'll get there. I was gonna bring something up, but
I do want to talk. Yeah. So the other thing that was really fascinating that I actually talked about already a little bit this morning is the renaming of Staples Center.
Oh.
So we thought Climate Pledge Arena is bad. It is. That's a horrible name. But Staples Center, probably one of the two most famous arenas in all of sports. Not like stadiums, but arenas. You have that and Madison Square Garden, I think, are the top two.
Sure.
Staples Center has been Staples Center for as long as I know. I don't know what it used to be before. It will now be named Crypto.com Arena. Allegedly, Staples Center had a lifetime deal. They had the naming rights forever, as long as they wanted it. I guess they didn't want it anymore, which seems really weird. Probably because Staples is running out of money. No one goes to Staples. I'm an Office Depot guy.
Yeah. No, that's a good take.
My school supply shopping always happened at Office Depot, never Staples.
So basically, I've decided that everything that Shams Charania tweets and breaks, I hate the news that's coming off of his thumbs on Twitter. It's all bad stuff.
Sorry, who? I missed that.
Shams Charania.
Oh, yes, yeah.
The guy that's competing with Woj, the guy that's in. He's only like 26 years old.
I don't like that.
And he's already got like the equity and the credibility built up within the NBA that he has. It's honestly really impressive.
Which is horrible because I guarantee you he has no credibility in my eyes.
I'm sure of that.
I guarantee it.
I can personally guarantee that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is going to be one of those things that is going to age me at the ripe year of 24 years old because I'm going to be complaining about this probably for the rest of time. and I'm not going to refer to it as crypto.com.
That's it's a very really clunky name, and it's hard because
.com in it.
Well, it has to. That was some of the
I
some of the
understand,
discussion.
but
Like that's what makes it so clunky is adding the .com. Because there's a GoDaddy arena or something, right? Or GoDaddy something. Anyway, what's nice about that is like that's their brand. It's unfortunate that there's a brand nicknamed after a general product. Like crypto's the thing.
Yeah.
Like Staples, I guess, is a thing. Staples is a thing, but they don't have Staples.com arena, right?
Sure.
Like, it's just unfortunate that that's how it has to be. I would like to see how much money they had to pay, because that must be an
it's got to be astronomical number.
Like, arguably the highest in sports right now.
I think that's what the report was. Yeah, I think
it
is.
That would make sense.
And
it's horrible.
They're changing this over on Christmas Day, of course. Just happens to be a convenient time and place. NBA is going to be there. I presume the Lakers are getting.
That's interesting because that's a lot. I mean, that's only what? That's 6 weeks away. That's a lot of marketing and like physical things they have to change on the arena.
Yeah.
In order to get that ready in 6 weeks.
While
people are still going there and like watching games.
Another telltale sign of the downfall of LA as a city.
That place sucks.
How many people do you think will actually refer to it as, what'd you say it was,
crypto.com? My guess is it's going to be a younger generation and people who have no dog in the fight. I don't really have a dog in the fight except for the fact that it's just a bad name. And Staples Center is just monumental.
Well, Staples, I mean, you hear it all the time. You hear it. Everybody.
Right. Everyone
standing
like
outside of Staples. The house that Kobe built, as some refer to it as.
Right.
It's been in the lexicon as it pertains to sports. My entire life, our entire existence is so. It is synonymous with Los Angeles and crypto.com.
So what's interesting is if you look at, and I had this conversation this morning, there are more famous outdoor stadiums than there are indoor arenas, which seems weird considering that the arenas, it's probably because arenas I feel like get replaced a lot more often. I feel like there's less of an opportunity to make interesting indoor arenas compared to like stadiums. You're able to make some pretty cool stadiums. I feel like arenas, you're kind of stuck in a box. I think Seattle did a really good job to make theirs kind of unique. I haven't been there yet, but just based off of what I've heard in the pictures, the way that they dug down is really unique. But think about it. In baseball and football, you have what? You have Wrigley, you have Fenway, you have Lambeau, are the first three that come to mind.
Arrowhead.
You have Old Yankee Stadium. Even New Yankee Stadium has a lot of history because they
it
brought
does.
everything over.
They won a World Series in the first year of it.
Right. And if you even want to go international, you have Wembley as probably the most worldwide famous arena or stadium, even though it's actually pretty new since they've renovated it. But it's very fascinating that kind of thought. So that's enough time on that. Okay. Let's do a picks update. If we have time, we'll do picks at the end. I don't want to get stuck just doing it. So I went 8-5 and 1 technically, and then you went 6-7 and 1.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm +2. Finally. Right. Back in my rightful place as king of the picks. Sorry.
I hate the Chargers now.
Why?
Oh, just because they were my team that I jumped on, and they were awesome, and they were sexy, and they were new, and it was Justin Herbert, and now it's not.
That's true. They are having
They're
struggles,
just plummeting back down to earth.
and I'm not sure why. What they're
conservative play calling. Dude's got the best arm in the NFL, and they're just doing short routes.
All right,
push the ball down the field, dude.
You know who shouldn't have pushed the ball down the field? Was Russell Wilson. His second pick of the afternoon ended up essentially sealing the game.
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't I say something along the lines of, hey, his finger looked like a sausage and maybe just because he was clear that he might not be ready to go?
Well, yes. To be fair, yeah, clear doesn't say 100%, but everyone talked about how, he's including himself. Obviously, he's not going to say the finger was an issue, but they all said his finger was fine.
It was so fine that he didn't take a single snap under center the entire game because of the fact in pregame when he tried to, it was, bothering his finger.
They don't do that many snaps under center anyways.
That's not true. The Shane Waldron, Sean McVay offense is
all
under center.
Shotgun.
I feel like you're making excuses here.
Shut
Justin.
up! No, you're misleading everybody right now that doesn't know better.
Well, that's fine. If they don't know any better, they can they can just agree with me.
I know, but now I'm
I want
not
to
convinced that you
start,
actually know better.
No, I know better, but I'm pretending not to.
Heard it here first.
But yeah, the team is the team currently is
3-6.
We got to cruise out of here. I got a meeting at noon, so let's finish this off. My Jabroni, Deshaun Jackson. Let's go ahead and pop up that video. This is the punt return.
From the 43.
And, sorry, not a punt return. I mean, he did the exact same thing.
Right. As if it was a punt return.
He's like, I was watching this live, and I was like,
at the 14-yard line. He makes his first catch as a
He
Raider.
seems so upset with himself because he realizes
Toss it
that
up.
there, in fact, was nobody behind him as far as the goal line, so he could have literally caught it and ran straight in with no one touching him. He didn't. That's the second time he has done this sort of play, and the second time he has fumbled on that sort of play as well.
Yeah. Raiders, continuing to Raider. Okay, so my Jabroni, I don't believe I actually have any video media, but last night at the Barclays, the best team in the league, the Warriors, entered to take on KD and James Harden.
Right.
And they beat the hell out of them.
Yeah, they did.
And everybody was cheering for Steph, MVP. While Kevin is one of the MVP front runners in the very early season.
Right.
And so I just think it's hilarious that
funny.
Kevin has made this choice to go to the Brooklyn Nets, and now he has one of his 3 stars not even playing, might not play this entire season, refusing to get vaccinated.
Yep.
That's neither here nor there. He's not on the court to play. Their team is underperforming. There's weird stuff going on in the East. You have the Wizards and the Bulls, at the top. There's some weird stuff, but they're not where they want to be. They are still third. They're 10-5, but when they've played good competition, they have not showed up. And they don't seem to have a lot of depth, and Kevin's basically having to drag the whole team.
Massive contracts.
And you left the Golden State Warriors, which you never should have gone to in the first place. And now Steph enters your building that you chose. And
steals the MVP chance.
Garners the MVP chance. So Kevin finds himself incredible player.
That's big
one of the all-time jabronis.
Big jabroni moment. All right, this day in sports history, November 17th, 1884. Cops arrest boxer John L. Sullivan in the second round for being too cruel. There is Mr. Sullivan. Don't be too cruel when you're boxing.
Those eyebrows look intense.
Speaking
he
of,
looks like he takes
mustaches,
lives.
there we go.
Yeah.
Mustache show.
Yeah.
There he is. All right. On this day in 1926, NHL. This is my buddy AJ again. 1926, NHL Chicago Blackhawks play their first game in their history, and they beat the Toronto St. Patrick's 4-1.
The Toronto St. Patrick's?
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's a great name. I would like to bring that back. On this day in 1940, the Packers become the first NFL team to travel by plane.
Woo. Big ups.
Yep. Nice 80 years ago. That's wild.
Incredible.
All right, closing time. We'll do mine real quick. Jokic, this happened. Obviously, it was some bumping going there with Morris.
Now, if we talked about NBA,
right? Yeah, Morris, and he pushes back. A really good shove. But then, my thoughts on this, he could have been a jabroni. Morris is more of a jabroni than this.
100%. The Morris brothers are perpetual jabronis.
They're horrible.
They do that. They do little cheap. And he flopped. Okay, the other thing that in Jokic's defense, Morris's hit was a lot harder than it looked, but because Jokic is so massive, he barely moves. He went in and he stuck an elbow and a shoulder under his arm. Yeah. And then he does embellish that. What would have hurt? What could he have been holding? He hit the court. Nothing hit super hard. It wasn't like he directly landed on an elbow or a wrist with all of his weight. He landed very cleanly, was able to brace himself with his leg and both of his hands. And, dude, I was so stoked for Jokic. I was like, okay, obviously you don't want to see this thing. You can't condone it.
You can't do that.
You do have to. But, dude, don't mess with Jokic because, one, he's got the brothers, and two, he gets ejected from games. He lashes out. He loses his emotions from time to time. And if you're going to do that, to get the MVP some respect, obviously, the Morris brothers do stupid, cheap stuff all the time. And they always act like the biggest tough guys. And it's like, okay, you're not actually that guy, pal. But they act like it. Anyway,
and there even was a stumble to catch balance right as he fell.
Exactly. No, he had time to land. So anyway, good jabroni. Yeah. Morris brother. I don't even know which one that is. I don't think it's
Markeith.
I think it's Markeith. Yeah, it's the lesser.
Yeah.
Not that that's saying anything. Okay, so I have a little thought experiment basically, but a lot of this stuff was going on after the Rams lost to the 49ers on Monday night. But just within the context of the NFC West, The Rams own the Seahawks own the Niners, and the Niners own the Rams. Now, this has been very true, especially the last 3 or 4 years since Shanahan and McVay have gone to their respective teams.
Yep.
But if we take it back a little bit further, this has still generally been the case, at least over the past 2 decades, right? Because
Steven Jackson always ran all over the Seahawks. Jeff Fisher Rams were
trolled. Who was the head coach before Jeff Fisher? I don't even remember the dude's name. Like the Mark Bulger days.
Mike Martz?
Well, he was. He was the offensive coordinator for a while. He did get a head coaching shot at some point. But anyway, the Seahawks have generally, I mean, you take it back to the Harbaugh days. There was a Chip Kelly day in there.
Steve Spagnuolo was there for a couple of years.
Oh, that's right.
Mike Martz was there from 2000 to 2005.
That went very badly.
Joe Vitt was there only for a year, and then Scott Linehan was there for 3 seasons.
Yep. Okay, but if you take it back
Dick Vermeil. I don't remember Dick Vermeil being the head coach there.
You mean when they won the Super Bowl with the greatest show on turf? You don't remember Dick Vermeil being there?
I just don't remember. I never put his name to that team for whatever reason. I always just think of Warner. I never think of Vermeil.
Fair. Anyway, I just kind of thought as I was taking it further back in history how much it still seemed to hold water.
Yeah.
And so,
and
the Cardinals just kind of factor in from time to time, kind of screw some teams up and also kind of get bent over by some teams. You know, they're just kind of there.
I remember Vermeil as the head coach of the team from the movie Invincible. That's what I remember Vermeil from.
Fair.
More
Eagles.
specific. Just because it's obviously in that realm. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I just kind of thought it was an interesting thing, and as I was extrapolating it backward, I was like, oh, this still actually holds. Relevant.
Right. Yeah. All right, quickly, because we're closing up. So, I tweeted essentially during Scott Van Pelt's Sports Center that Scott Van Pelt called out UCLA for not having enough fans. They had about 6,000 fans and a 14,000 capped attendance there in Pauley Arena. They only had 6,000 against Long Beach State. He was quoted saying, folks in LA, you're allowed to come out for a game other than against Villanova, and you just want to clarify.
What he said was other than that.
Right.
And that's why I was curious if he was referring to a highlight that he just finished, which was the Lakers, because obviously that was basically sold out and all the stars are there.
Right.
So I thought he may have been suggesting that people in LA, you're allowed to go to other sporting events that are not the Lakers, such as your highly touted UCLA Bruins with one of the best players in the country right now.
Right. And then he responded to that saying, I'm talking about coming to Pauley to support your Final Four / top 5 team for more than a one-off versus Nova. Atmosphere is tremendous for that. Shows what it can be.
So Scott Van Pelt, friend of the show, officially.
Yep.
Recurring guest.
Reoccurring.
You heard it here first.
He'll be here next week, I'm sure. All right. I got to head off to a meeting. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you here next week, probably on Monday. Most likely on Monday, unless something happens with Andrew.
Monday
it is. All right. Thanks.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all from us. Tune in each Friday for more of The Pulse. We hope to see you soon, and until then, feel free to binge all of our content on YouTube or Facebook. Stay safe, and goodbye for now.